Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Born July 26, 1928, New York City. My father is a doctor. One sister, Barbara, married, 2 children, lives in New Jersey, 6 years younger. I was taught to play chess at the age of 12, but did not play seriously until about age of 17, when I joined the Marshall Chess Club in New York on West 10th Street, between 5th and 6th Avenue. I had few intellectual interests. As a child, I was a school misfit and considered, reading a book schoolwork. And I don't think I read a book for pleasure until after I graduated high school. Well, I had one thing I think that perhaps helped me get over being a misfit, a school misfit, and that is that I became interested in photography about the same time, 12 or 13. And I think that if you get involved in any kind of problem solving in depth on almost anything, it is surprisingly similar to problem solving of anything, I started out by just, getting a camera and learning how to take pictures and learning how to print pictures and learning how to build a darkroom and learning how to do all the technical things and so on and so on. And then finally trying to find out how you could sell pictures and become would it be possible to be a professional photographer? And it was a case of over a period of, say, from the age of 13 to 17, you might say, going through step by step by myself without anybody really helping me, the problem solving of becoming a photographer. And I found that, I think in looking back, that the this particular thing about problem solving is something that schools generally don't teach you, and that if you can develop a kind of generalized approach to problem solving, that it's surprising how it helps you in anything, you know. Most of the deficiencies that you see around you in people that say you don't think particularly you're doing their job right or something, is really that, I mean, assuming that they care, and you know, a lot of people that appear to care or may actually care are still not going about things particularly the right way. When you think about it, I generally find that it's just that they don't have a good generalized approach to problem solving. They're not thorough. They don't consider all the possibilities. They don't prepare themselves with the right information and so forth. So I think that photography, though it seemed like a hobby, and ultimately led to a professional job in photography, might have been more valuable than you know, doing the proper things in school. What happened is that I had developed myself as a photographer, and prior to graduating high school, I had sold two picture stories to Look. And
what were they about?
One was about a teacher in high school named Mr. Traister, Traister, who taught English, and he used to dramatize Shakespeare. He would read the parts and act it out, and he made it very interesting. You know, it was one of the few courses that were interesting. You know, most of the English courses that I had consisted of the teacher saying, you're to read 5 pages of Silas Marner tonight, and the next day the class was spent in sitting at the book like Emil Jannings in The Blue Angel, looking up over the book and saying, you know, Mr. Kubrick, and then you stand up and they say, when Silas Marner walked out of the door, what did he see? And if you didn't know what he saw, you got a 0. and that was it. And as a matter of fact, I failed English once and had to make it up in summer school. I can't remember what it was, but I took some pictures down there. What had happened is that I could not get into college, and all sorts of things. My father, who was an alumni of NYU Uptown, took me to see the dean, you know, and said, you know, this is my son, and I was the student here, and so forth, and nothing worked. So I started going to City College at night under the hope that if I got a B average for so many credits, I don't remember now, that I could then get into day school, a day college. within about, I don't know, a few weeks of this, I was down at Look with some other pictures, and there was an extremely nice picture editor then, whose name was Helen O'Brien. And the managing editor at the time was Jack Gunther, who was then later killed in the Bryce Canyon, Utah plane crash. And she asked me what I was doing. And I told her, nothing, and that I was going to try to, wouldn't happen. And she said something about, she thought she might be able to get me a job as an apprentice photographer. And, so I went up to see Jack Gunther and so forth, and I got a job. Being out of school, I began to read, and within a relatively short period of time, I would imagine caught up with where I probably should have been had I had a modicum of interest in things in high school. Like everybody else, I was always very interested in movies, and I used to go to see films, and I'd say practically every film. And I used to see all the films at the Museum of Modern Art and the Thalia, and actually at that time, when I was a teenager, there were the so-called art house didn't really exist to the extent it does now. It was the post-war Italian the Rossellini pictures, which brought the art houses into existence. So there weren't that many good films that were ever played in the theaters around, except at the museum. Anyway, I used to see all the films, and I knew I'd seen them all a number of times. A friend of mine, who subsequently has become a film director named Alex Singer, was working as an office boy at the March of Time. And one day he told me that it cost $40,000 to make a March of Time, and it was a one-reeler. And I said to him, gee, that's a lot of money. I said, I can't believe it cost that much to make, 8 or 9 minutes of film. So I called up Eastman Kodak and checked on the price of film, and then I called up the laboratory and found out how much it cost to develop it, and I checked on how much it cost to rent 35 millimeter movie cameras, and then I checked the cost of the other facilities, sound and editing and so forth, and I forgot what it added up to, but it was something like that I could do a documentary film with an original music score and everything for about $3,500. So I thought, gee, if they're making these pictures for $40,000 and I can make them for $3,500, surely I must be able to sell them and at least get my money back and probably make a profit, I rented a 35mm IMO camera. That's spelled EYEMO, which is a spring-wound camera. Produces a professional picture. And I did a documentary film about a boxer named Walter Cartier, who I had previously done a picture story for Look about, and I knew him. And it was called Day of the Fight. And got the whole thing, did everything. Alex helped me, sort of carried lights around and assisted me, and I did the whole thing, just myself and Alex and Walter and his people that he knew, and cut it. And another friend of mine who subsequently has become a professional movie composer named Gerald Fried, F-R-I-E-D, did a film score and got the whole thing finished for $3,900. And then when we began to take it around to the various companies to sell it, they all liked it, but we were offered things like $1,500 and $2,500 and so forth. At one point I said to them, Christ, why are you offering us so little for this? One reel shorts, get more than $40,000. And they said, what, you must be crazy. And I said, why do you think that? And so I told them about the March of Time, and anyway, they said it was, was ridiculous. And shortly after that, the March of Time went out of business for the reason we later found out that they were spending approximately, if the March of Time sues me for this, Alex somehow found out when he was working there that it was costing $40,000 to make one of their one-reelers, and they went out of business. Well, anyway, I finally sold the film to RKO Pathé, who are no longer in business either. Everybody liked it, and they thought it was good. And I thought that this would be, I'd get millions of offers, from which I got none to do anything. So I made another documentary, this time about a flying priest. I forgot, Father Stockmuller or something, in New Mexico, who flew a Piper Cub around to Indian parishes. I know RKO thought it was a colorful subject. And so I went there and pretty much on my own again made this short, and still, nothing was happening. There obviously wasn't any money in shorts, but that I then found out how much feature films were being made for it, and millions, and I had calculated that I could make a feature film for about $10,000. At this point, I was the whole crew: cameraman, assistant cameraman, director, everything. So I had no cost. So he did a script which was terrible, sort of dull, undramatic but very, very serious allegorical story about 4 soldiers from an unnamed country lost behind enemy lines trying to find their way home again. And it had lines in it like, we spend our lives running our fingers down the lists of names and addresses looking for our real, no, running our fingers down the lists of something or other looking for our real names or our real addresses. I can't remember what the line is, but it was that kind of a thing, you know? And of course, I totally failed to recognize what I didn't know about making films or anything. You know, I just thought, well, these other 2 things would turn out pretty well, but they were documentaries. And but I didn't really know what I didn't know, and I thought, well, Christ, there really can't be very much more to making a feature film, and I certainly couldn't make one worse than the films that I kept seeing every week. And but I wasn't satisfied to just make an interesting film. I wanted it to be a very poetic and meaningful film. I got the film made, and but it was very, very dull, and it got an art house distribution. It was called Fear and Desire, distributed by Joseph Bernstein, who was at one time, I think he was the distributor who first brought in Rossellini's pictures. With the exception of 1 or 2 of the actors, they were all terrible actors, and I knew nothing about directing any actors. It never returned a penny of its investment. took a long time to edit the film and get all the, the thing done. I spent over a year on it. And it opened at the Guild Theater in New York, and it was pretty apparent, that it was terrible. And while it was still playing, I decided, well, I'd better get another script very fast and try to promote some more money on the strength of just the fact that the thing was playing, because it wasn't apparent to me how I was going to earn a living or do anything, And again, not one single offer ever to do anything, from anybody. But I was playing chess for quarters. I mean, I wasn't a hustler in that I pretended not to be a good player and beat people. I just was playing in the park, for quarters. When I was waiting for things to happen, waiting to get an answer on something, which went on for months, sometimes, I would go there about 12 o'clock and stay there until, midnight. I'd say a good 12 hours a day with breaks for food. I won the B tournament, and I played in one A tournament and finished around in the middle. As I say, when Fear and Desire was still playing the Guild Theater, I spent about 2 weeks lashing together this all-action script. And, let's see, now what is he in relation to the family? Well, the guy's name was Mo Bousel, B-O-U-S-E-L, and he has 2 drugstores in the Bronx. Mo Bousel co-produced and put up the money to make Killer's Kiss. His name is Morris Bousel. Jimmy had to guarantee completion of the movie, which means that if the movie ran over the budget, he had to put up all the extra money, which is a great safeguard, and especially since financially he was responsible to make this kind of a guarantee, it wasn't that much of a risk on the part of United Artists. Well, we had a very good cast, but none of the people were big stars in the sense that they were extremely choosy about what they were in. I mean, if you can, in other words, if it's bad if you don't like somebody to have a bad social situation occur, like an attempt at friendliness, which turns out to be sour, or, his wife goes away saying how terrible you are, or something like that. But I mean, if you like the people, it helps to know them, and it's enjoyable to be with them. After leaving MGM and The Burning Secret, prior to this, Jimmy and I had bought Paths of Glory. I did a screenplay with Jim Thompson and Calder Willingham, and nobody wanted to do it. It was turned down by every company until our agent, Ronnie Lubin, L-U-B-I-N, interested Kirk Douglas in the project, and through Kirk's interest, United Artists put up the money on the basis of it being done for a very low budget in Europe. The picture was a moderate success, but it was nothing to create opportunities for us because of big grosses or profits. The reviews on it were very good. Many reviews were superlative, and from that point of view, it was an enormous success. The greatest virtue of the film was that I met my wife, Christiana, who was an actress. I was watching a television broadcast, looking for an actress, actually watching someone else, and saw her, and got in touch with her agent. She came out to the studio, we met, I began dating her, and we subsequently got married a year later. She is a marvelous actress. She had done a lot of work in Germany. I would like her to act, but she has no interest in doing dull, routine acting things, and is more interested in painting. If I ever have a decent part for women, which for some reason I never seem to write into my films, she would certainly do it. Well, I was interested in whether or not I was going to get blown up by an H-bomb prior to Lolita. But my interest intensified itself sort of concurrently with that. I believe that the Berlin crisis took place during Lolita. And about that time, I became keenly interested and started reading up on all the, literature of which there's a terrific extent, a tremendous a lot. Boy, am I getting fucked up on that. A tremendous a lot. I read, I would say I pretty much read the spectrum. I began finding after a while that I wasn't reading anything new, and I decided I knew the whole thing, and it was then that I began to, the thing that struck me most of all about it was that at first, when you read the brilliant analyses and the games theories and Herman Cohen, you're very reassured, because you start off by thinking, gee, God, there are these bombs, and you get an image vaguely of sort of a World War II mentality. And then when you read the literature in the field, your first reaction, superficially, is you're very encouraged because you suddenly realize there's this whole body of thought that's gone into the whole thing, and you think, yes, well, now, and then as you read on and become more involved, then you begin to realize that all these things lead to very paradoxical outcomes. And in reviewing the whole thing, every line in it leads to a paradoxical point. And I suppose this was the most thematically obvious thing about Dr. Strangelove, was the paradoxical outcome of any particular line of thought. Depressing thing is that at every period of history, the people always thought that they had, the power structure and the leaders always looked back on the previous period of history and thought that they had learned something. And I think that, the old thing about the only thing you can learn about history is that you can't learn from history is probably true, and that there's this illusion that you get that you're much more sophisticated and that it can never happen that way again. May be true, but the thing you don't realize is that it'll happen a different way. Now that everybody's very convinced that they'll never have another 1914 type situation, well, they may have a 1985 type situation that they're not prepared for. People do not react to abstractions. They only react to direct experience. Very few people are even interested in abstractions, and even fewer people can become emotionally involved or emotionally react to an abstract thing. To begin with, because of the very effective denial and the lack of any evidence, there's almost no interest in the problem. I would say in the minds of most people, it's less interesting even than city government, And the longer the time goes on without the thing happening, this illusion is created that somehow it's like money in the bank or you're building up security. In fact, I think you're just becoming more accustomed to it and more liable to think that at some point that you've been taking these wonderful precautions and that the chances are minimized and so forth, and then finally you will get confronted with a situation that you couldn't anticipate. The fact that a lot of effort has been gone to try to work out possible accidents, and I suspect that great precautions have been taken to protect against these accidents, but whether the human imagination is capable of really devising the subtle permutations and psychological variants to all those things, I doubt. The people who make up these war scenarios are not really as inventive, say, as a great writer or as reality. This is not as complex a picture. It's not as complicated a picture in terms of, ideas represented, ideas actually spoken, you know. In praise of Arthur C. Clarke, it is true that he is, I think, the most poetic science fiction writer. He is scientifically the best informed. His narrative ideas, I think, are, for my tastes, the most appealing. And he has this rather unique poetic sense of the a sort of nostalgia for the the mountains that have eroded away over millions of years, and the millions of years in the future, and people looking back and forward. And you'll have to fix this up because it sounds like real crap, but to the average person, the time scale of a movie seems like time has stopped. Most people are so bored and so astonished when they see the pace of things. Somehow they have an image in their mind that it's all done in a week or something like that. And most people that I've found who don't come from your side of the fence think that everything works incredibly slowly. If these things do work that quickly, the thing that does take all the time is to extract, say, 2 hours and 15 minutes of a story and really keep distilling and distilling and distilling and distilling and distilling. I would say that if you count the time that's spent during the shooting day also working on the story, in rehearsal and rewriting and so on, I would say that an average of at least 4 hours a day has been spent on this story. Much more than that, because in the real solid writing period it was like 8 hours a day. But let's just say it averaged 4 hours a day for 2 years. Say an average of 6 days a week. That's 24 hours a week times maybe 100 weeks. I'd say that's a good 2,400 hours spent on call it 2 hours and 40 minutes of story. So that's about 1,000 to 1, isn't it? With the exception of a few directors, like David Lean and, well, let's not say who, but with the exception of a few directors, most people have their film edited by film editors as they go along. And then when the film is done, they look at the film and dictate some notes about it, and the film editor tries to do what they say, and then maybe they look at it again and they do it again. But basically, it's like trying to, say, redesign a city by driving through it in a car, you know. You can notice a few things and say, you know, put that traffic light in the middle of the street, or those buildings over there look kind of shabby or something. But if you really want to do it right, you must do it yourself, you know, piece by piece. So I think by now I have enough sort of ability to imagine the way a scene will come out so that I can tell without editing the material if I have enough film coverage and, you know, what I can do with it. And then I edit the film with the editor myself when I'm all finished. film directing, I think, is a misnomer for anybody that seriously wants to make films, because directing the film is only, you might say, 1/3 of the process. You know, writing the film, directing the film, and then editing the film is, you might say, the whole job. And it's only the old major studio sort of image of how a film was made that the producer held in his hand on the palette, you know, the various people, the artist, the cameraman, the actors, the film editor, and the director, and so forth. And the director was really just sort of like a senior member of the crew. And that, you know, he had no real integrating status in what happened. I mean, there were the few exceptional characters, even in the great days of the Hollywood studios, who somehow exerted their authority over what went on. But, I mean, even today, you know, you talk about directors have the right of, they call the first cut, which means they must approve the first cut, but then after then the producer can do whatever he wants.